Good evening. Welcome to Stygian Articles presented by the Lovecraft Tapes podcast. I am Jeremy, your keeper of arcane lore, and tonight I'm going to read scary fiction for you. Listener discretion is advised. The stories I read and write will often contain extreme horror, violence, language, and other adult themes. Watch and listen at your own risk. Tonight's tale includes content warnings by the author for a car accident due to texting and homophobia. Now we begin Her Final Commute by Journey Sloan. I'm not normally a suspicious woman, but 3 white cars had been lined up perfectly abreast behind me on the freeway for a solid 30 miles now. And my pulse was starting to pound in my ears. Some people love to drive, but not me, especially not when I was already uneasy as it was. I should check my messages. The thought came out of nowhere and I frowned. I wasn't one of those people. I didn't text and drive. Well, not most of the time. Sometimes I did, but we all did that, right? Just a quick glance to see if it was something important or not. I shook the thought away, but couldn't get rid of it completely. So I lowered the volume of the music I'd been trying to distract myself with for the last 10 miles and pressed the call button on the steering wheel. My car guided me through the process. Normally, the clunky automation annoyed me, but it was a comfort today, and I asked it to call my girlfriend, Allie. Entry not found, my car informed me, and the words jerked my attention from the hypnotic beams of the cars behind me. I swerved, but straightened up quickly enough, momentarily thankful, though I'd been cursing the fact a moment ago, as I'd feel much safer in the company of others, that there were cars on either side of me. I initiated the call again, this time rattling off the numbers instead of saying Allie's name. I should check my messages. I would like what I found. I didn't. Instead, I tightened my hands on the wheel as the headlights behind me flickered. It started with the car on the right, one headlight dimming and then the other, and moved through the other 2 cars in under 2 seconds. It happened so quickly, my mind had trouble processing it, and I stared in horrified fascination. Had my eyes played tricks on me? Allie's birthday was last week. We had a great night together. The neighbors had actually called the cops on us for noise. Allie was a screamer if you got her worked up enough. I really should check my messages. She likes to surprise me sometimes. The cars got bigger in the rearview mirror. Was the headlight thing some sort of signal for them to attack? My throat went dry as my palms were wet, and I swallowed hard, wondering why the damn call wasn't connecting. and floored the gas. The Kia stumbled, choked a bit, and made that sound that told me it wanted to go, but didn't have the gumption. Nausea filled me as the knowledge I was going to die on this road settled into every space inside me. I didn't know how I knew that, but I knew it nonetheless. And still, I could barely resist the urge to check my goddamn messages. I cursed, slamming my hand down on the wheel. I mentally willed my car to magically fix itself. The Kia was getting on in years, and sometimes I felt like she was the only standard still on the road. But I didn't expect her to. Recognition dawned. My eyes went back to the rearview mirror as one hand went up to the stick. I noted the cars weren't any closer than they had been, which made absolutely no sense. But pausing to ruminate on one's good or bad luck was never a good idea until they were completely out of danger. I pressed the clutch, put the car in lower gear, and pressed the gas again. My baby gave a little jerk of protest, but then traction caught, and I was free. 50, 60, 70. I was going to get away from them. This time, I was going to get away. I tried not to look back, told myself to keep going. I'd find an exit leading into a suburb and lose myself there. I could do that. Find other people. Maybe my signal would be better and I'd call Allie again. I bet she sent me a naughty picture. The idea teased at me, and I grabbed blindly for my phone. I'd take a peek. Just a quick one. My hand found the black rectangle in the center console, right beside my trusty little screwdriver. But as I touched it, my eyes went back to the rearview mirror, and the thought faded from my head. A fourth car had joined the other three. 4 white cars, all some sort of small car which appeared identical from the front, all going the exact same speed, but maintaining a car's length distance behind me. What the fuck was going on? Caddy? Caddy, is that you? Allie's voice whispered out of the sound system. I cranked the volume up. Allie, I need you to call the police, I said, feeling my eyes and nose start to burn as tears threatened. Why hadn't I called them? It wouldn't have worked. It never worked. Something's going on. Caddy, I miss you. This is all my fault. Her voice was still barely audible, so I pushed the volume to max, clenching my teeth. Allie, I need you to call the police, I repeated. I didn't understand what she was going on about, and I didn't care. Caddy? Caddy, are you still there? Her voice rose in pitch. I'm here, I told her. Call the police. I'm, uh, I eyed both sides of the road, searching for a mile marker or exit sign. I'm on 315 South, about 30 miles outside. The lights flickered again. The call dropped. A second later, a sharp bell-like sound screamed through the car. Again, again, again. I took my hands off the wheel, slamming my palms against my ears. I couldn't think, couldn't do anything. I needed the noise to stop. There was a crunch on the driver's side, and I felt my body jolt sideways as the squeal of metal on metal drowned out the dinging. I grabbed the wheel and tried to steer my car away from the other one, but they wouldn't separate. And I was afraid that if I jerked too hard, I'd end up going into a spin or something. I risked a glance at the other car. The passenger side door of the little white car was right up against mine. The driver glanced over. Our eyes met, and he gave me a pleasant smile and a little nod in greeting. Who does that? Who smiles and nods when their car is locked with someone else's like his was? And then he blinked. It wasn't a normal blink. It was like that scene in that Will Smith movie where the alien blinks with that hidden eyelid thing. The sheer oddity of it froze my thoughts for a split second. When I was able to think again, the first thing that popped into my head was, little white car? My eyes went to the mirror again. Two little white cars were behind me, this time with the headlights on bright, and it was still dark enough out that the intensity of the light burned itself into my retinas, and I looked away, blinking rapidly. If there were two behind me and one on my left, then where was... Before I finished the thought, the fourth car pulled up on the other side of me, crowding in until our doors touched. I gaped as the driver, an older black lady with her hair pulled up in a bun, gave me that same polite nod and smile the other driver had. But there was something about her eyes that made my skin crawl. She didn't seem as normal as the guy on my other side had. Don't forget to watch out for her. Of course I was watching out for her. She was trying to box me in. Kind of hard not to. I tried to pull ahead, but the cars kept pace. A tap at my bumper told me one of the others had boxed me in from behind. My pulse hammered as my heart tried to break free of my chest. The steering wheel was slick beneath my hands. I couldn't get ahead. I wasn't going to die without a fight. I didn't know why these people had picked me to mess with, but they'd picked the wrong person. The word meek didn't exist in my vocabulary. Just ask my girl. My eyes shifted to the phone. If I was going to die, I deserved to see what she'd sent me first. Horns blared all around me. I looked up as the round taillights of a little white car filled my vision. As the red threatened to become the last thing I saw, I slammed on the brake, and it gave that familiar but undiagnosable rumble under my foot, and I kept going, the pedal going down to the floor. I knew the crash was coming. The sounds of metal folding, of plastic cracking, filled my ears before I even made contact. The Kia would almost bury itself inside the trunk of the white car, and the seatbelt that should have protected me would fail. When they buried me, it would be with a closed casket, because my face would be so messed up from slamming into the steering wheel and then the whole front of the Kia getting pushed back into me. I wasn't guessing. I knew. I didn't know how I knew, but I did. I would die here today, with the front of my Kia buried in the back of the piece of shit car in front of me. A car that police would be able to find no evidence of a driver for. They would sweep it for DNA, but find none. They would run the license plates, but find they weren't in the system. All of this flashed through my mind in the space between heartbeats. The knowledge, foreknowledge, filling me with confusion. I expected my life to flash before my eyes, not to get some strange knowledge of what I knew would happen afterward. But a split second before the impact, the Kia began to cross lanes, heading toward the shoulder, losing speed rapidly. It didn't take long for me to realize that the other cars were doing this. They were guiding me away from the potential wreck, stopping me before the Kia could go out of control. They were saving me. I was crying in relief when we came to a halt, and the driver on my left pulled his car away enough that I could open my door. The Kia chirped at me, grouchily telling me that I'd left my keys in the ignition while the door was open. I ignored it and grabbed my screwdriver. I got out of the car and threw myself at the driver as he approached, giving him a tight hug. He'd saved my life. They'd all saved my life. No, they didn't. My head was fuzzy, probably from the adrenaline. The man hugged me back. After a moment, I was conscious of hands touching my shoulders, pulling me back a bit. I swiped at my eyes with a palm, letting myself be moved away, fully expecting to be escorted back to my car while we called the police and filed a report for the damage they all must have done to their cars by forcing me off the road before anyone could get hurt. Once we'd taken a few steps back, We went no further. I tried to step away on my own, but whoever was holding me was ridiculously strong. I'm. I cleared my throat, unease starting to settle back in. Only the reassuring weight of the object in my right hand kept me from freaking out. I'm fine. You can let loose. I didn't remember to keep an eye on her. You just relax, Katy Bear. The female voice was strong but honey filled. She sounded like my grandma. That was scary, wasn't it? The question, the voice, everything wrapped around me like a warm blanket, and I found myself relaxing a bit, though I couldn't ignore the talon like fingers digging into my shoulders. Perhaps she didn't realize she was gripping so hard. It had to have been scary for her, too. Yeah, yeah, it was. I laughed a little. God, I needed to call Allie to let her know I'm okay. The phone. No, no, that was bullshit. It wasn't scary for the woman. I knew it wasn't. But why hadn't it been scary for her? I would say you'll talk to your girlfriend soon, but I think we pushed this as far as we can. Most people only give us a few days. You gave us months, the man I'd been hugging said, and plucked a piece of lint from the cuff of his cable knit sweater. Honestly, at first I was just disgusted because, you know. But really, I guess we should be thankful you had such an unnatural relationship. Unnatural relationship? Seriously? Had I time traveled back to the 90s or something? Too bad we can't screen people for viability ahead of time. It's a crapshoot, honestly. We lucked out with you. You and all your delicious fight to make things right. Things had taken a turn that made a sickening sort of sense, even though I couldn't articulate why. I focused on a question I could ask. I'd never met either of these people. Yes, I had. What were they talking about? How did they know Allie was my girlfriend? But when I voiced the questions aloud, they laughed at me in what Allie would have called upper class white folk and shared a glance that bespoke a private joke. Get ready. It is your fault, you know. Another person appeared, one of the other drivers. If you hadn't been distracted by lustful thoughts, well. The woman holding me sighed. Do we have to do this? She's done. Used up. There's nothing more we can take from her. Cable Knit put his hands on my forearms and gave me another perfect smile with teeth which, up close, were unnaturally bright and perfect. Who are you people? He shook his head, and his eyes actually twinkled. Sorry, but big bad master plan reveals are only for your television shows. Now, come here. He pulled me close, but It wasn't for the hug I'd thought it was for so many times before. I knew better now, but I stepped into it anyway. One way or another, this was going to end today. His jaw dropped open wide enough I should have been able to see the little hangy down thing in the back of his throat. But all I could see was darkness. I was going to die here. But I wasn't going to die alone. Even as he bit into the upper part of my skull, I shoved the screwdriver into his abdomen, aiming upward and rotating my wrists as hard as I could. I expected screams. What I got was laughter. Laughter and then darkness. I'd failed. Again. Tune in next time for another installment of Stygian Articles. Thank you for spending time with me. If you've enjoyed this dark fiction, please visit stygianarticles.com for more of my spooky stories and lovecrafttapes.com for fresh episodes of our Call of Cthulhu actual play podcast. If you write horror fiction and would like me to read your work on a future live stream, send email to podcast@lovecrafttapes.com or hit me up at lovecrafttapes@mastodon.online. I am Jeremy, your keeper of arcane lore, wishing you sweet dreams. Good night, and thank you to Journey Sloan, whose work you can read at authorjsloan.wixsite.com. There's more pieces there, as well as some book reviews, so I really appreciate Journey Sloan volunteering up this piece of fiction for me to read tonight, and I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again probably next week, next Wednesday, for more. I've got a few more stories that people have volunteered that I think you'll enjoy as well. So have a great night, everybody. Thank you to everybody in the chat who is watching. Beyond Peril, Mama Cryptid, Tiefla Brooks, Atulia 5 even. Ooh, fancy. Have a great night, guys. See you soon.